Here's a segment from a recent Gun Talk radio episode. You can listen to all the Gun Talk radio podcasts however you tune in, or check out guntalk.com for more. It is so interesting how things happen occasionally. Our last two calls were asking us questions about revolvers. And I was saying there's really still a reason to have a revolver, to use a revolver, maybe to carry a revolver. And I know a lot of people, particularly young people, they think of it kind of like a stick shift in a car. Why would I ever want to do that? Well, there may be some reasons. Joining me right now is a guy that really knows revolvers, really knows self-defense, a veteran law enforcement officer. He has been there through shootings. He's investigated dozens and dozens and dozens of shootings. He is a firearms instructor as well. He's the real deal. We'll talk about Darryl Bolke. Hey, Darryl, thank you for joining us. I know you're driving through the middle of nowhere right now. Hope we can get you.
Yep, I'm here. You have me?
I got you. You sound good, actually. It's a good connection there. I appreciate that. You're probably on your way back from a training somewhere.
Yep, just came off of 8 days training in Wyoming, and I'm headed back to Dallas and then heading out tomorrow to Georgia.
Holy cow. On the road, man. Yeah. On the road.
Yeah, well, it's not as glorious as everybody thinks.
Yeah, the glory wears off awfully fast, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, originally I'd said, well, let's talk because I know that, we were going to talk a little bit about your pocket holsters that are carried by Sam over at Wilderness Tactical, and they're really good pocket holsters for revolvers, and it's a great design. But then once we started chatting back and forth, I realized we had a lot of other things for us to talk about. So let's at least touch base and take care of that right off the bat. Because I was saying that a pocket holster with a 38 snubby, or whatever it is, 38, 327, 357, whatever, with cargo shorts is a great way to carry in the summer. What do you say?
It's a great way to carry all the time.
Okay.
I never really pocket carried when I was a police officer, but when I retired, my life changed quite a bit, and I now work outside of the firearms world. I do a lot of security work and other assorted things. And for discreet carry, pocket carry is a very good means to carry a firearm if you have enough pocket space to do it. Mm-hmm. I tell people that pockets for men are like purses for women, in that it is very socially unacceptable to be roaming around in other people's pockets or to try to access them. It also allows you access to the firearm in a very relaxed manner. You don't look aggressive at all, and it works real well in that when faced with threats, often in the urban world, I can just have my hand on a gun, preset for a draw, in my pocket, without ever telegraphing that I am prepared for an encounter. And I have a very real sub-second draw from that. As a matter of fact, I just did a demo in the class where I had 2 hits in 0.93 seconds from a pocket snub.
So actually, you're starting with your hand on the gun. You've got a gun in your hand before the draw as you're just standing there talking to somebody because you've got your hand in your pocket.
Exactly. I use the term covered low ready for it. As a police officer, I use low ready as often as possible to manage threats in the field. It took the draw completely out of the equation, and yet I wasn't violating Rule 2 of the firearm safety rules by pointing guns at things I did not already have a reason to shoot.
Right.
So with this, it's almost the same thing for now that I'm operating out in the world as kind of a normal person, without any kind of arrest authority or trying to take people into custody. I simply want to prevent being, robbed or assaulted. I can access the firearm, I can clear that holster, and nobody ever sees it. So if the threat diminishes, I simply release the firearm and no harm, no foul. If the threat increases, I can increase that into a full draw.
Okay, I have to call you on something, though. I'm going to guess that not a lot of people have ever called you a normal person. You actually described yourself as unsupervisable one time, so I'm going to go with that, okay?
Yeah, my current nickname tends to be Bad Santa. You get older and that beard gets wider, and this is what happens. So.
You said something recently that I thought was very interesting. And, not only have you been in gunfights, but you have investigated a lot of officer-involved shootings. And one of the things you said is you got all these perfectly functioning semi-auto pistols that work great on the range, and they'll run 500 rounds without a malfunction. And then you get into a gunfight, and you don't have a great grip, and you don't have a good aim, you don't have any support behind it, and you don't have the resistance for the reciprocating slide, and things go south, and you get malfunctions.
Absolutely. So you can take some of the most reliable semi-automatic service pistols that we have, and we have a lot of great ones. And as soon as you put them into a couple of environments, and all you need to do is watch police body camera video right now, and you'll see it often. One of the biggest places you'll see lots of malfunctions is inside of vehicles, around vehicles, or while entangled in some type of physical interaction with your adversary. If you do not get good extension, if you do not get your wrist lock, and you have a garbage grip on the gun, all of those wonderful, incredibly reliable semi-automatic pistols will start inducing malfunctions, which now requires two hands to clear, and you're holding a brick.
But Darryl, I am God's gift to the modern technique of the pistol. I am infallible when it comes to the range, man.
Yeah, and most people are. Yeah. And I have found that reality tends to conflict with a lot of this stuff. So one of the guys, another trainer out there I teach with a lot, Chuck Haggard, calls it shooting in space. And when we start shooting these guns in space, we have a lot of issues. So one of the beauties of the revolver is they are not as reliable as legend pertains them, as far as if you want to do a 500-round training class, you're going to have issues running a revolver in that environment. They were really never made to do that, and they don't do it well without maintenance. We have also gotten to a stage with modern service pistols. They don't require a lot of maintenance. You almost don't even need much lubrication, and the guns run as long as they are, have something for that slide to work with.
Right.
With the revolvers, what I like to tell people is they are disturbingly reliable when they are clean, with clean, good really good ammunition. And clean, you'll most likely be able to shoot the load on board and 2 reloads without any issues with that gun at all. And that's sort of a difference of how you define reliability.
Interesting. So basically, it's reliable long enough to get you through a gunfight, is what you're saying.
Exactly. And, back in the revolver days, I carried a 4-inch 45 long Colt revolver as my first duty gun. And, we had several things on the range. We had cleaning equipment. Most people today have no idea what a Lewis lead remover is. We use those a lot.
Yep.
Because we shot terrible reloads. We shot stuff you would never put in a semi-automatic pistol or training ammunition.
Right.
Yeah, and the one tool that never was taken from the range, and anybody who's worked around a police department knows, if it isn't screwed down, it probably will leave, is the Smith & Wesson factory screwdriver, because you needed that to both adjust the sights on your gun, and you needed that to make sure all the screws in the side plate were tight. And most people now do not do maintenance on their firearms like what a revolver sort of requires if you're planning to shoot it a lot, as opposed to just carrying a lot. And even carrying them, you need to kind of keep them clean and keep the gunk out of them.
And there are more openings on a revolver for gunk to get into.
Absolutely. So they do require a little bit of maintenance. I make the car analogy that many of us came from an age when you had to be able to set, points in a distributor and oil changes were different, and you had to, be able to jet a carburetor and set a choke. And today, in the world of fuel injection and 100,000-mile spark plugs, a lot of that stuff is a lost art. But there was a time when that was simply normal maintenance, and revolvers pretty much come out of that era. Now, some of the more modern designs don't require as much of that type of work, particularly, for example, many of the more modern Rugers. It is the GP100, starting with the GP100, really changed a lot of the designs. And certainly the LCRs were another one. I refer to them as sort of the Glock of revolvers as far as how they're constructed.
Yeah, I understand. Hey, Darryl, take a quick break. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back to you. And I want to talk about this event that is held at Gunsite in the fall that you are not only involved with, it's your event. And it's a revolver event. We're talking with Darryl Bolke. We're talking about pocket holsters and revolvers and a cool event that I think I got to go to. We'll be right back. All right, back with you. We're talking with Darryl Bolke. He is driving through the middle of nowhere on his way back from one training mission to another one. If you want to check it out on Facebook, check out DB Shooting Adventures. Darryl, before we talk about the Pat Rogers event, I know some people are thinking about revolvers and thinking, okay, yeah, but it only holds 5 or 6 or 7 or maybe even 8 rounds. In a gunfight, am I going to need more than that? You have been experienced in this in a lot of different ways. What's your answer to that?
If you hit things, you don't need all of them. Capacity is nice, but it shouldn't be the overwhelming drive. We'll probably talk a little here about Pat, but Pat Rogers was one of my most influential mentors. And one of Pat's sayings was mission drives the gear train. Now, you won't see me out advocating switching, metropolitan urban police officers back to revolvers from, current semi-auto service pistols.
Okay.
But if you look at the goal for most people is to simply make the threat go away, leave them alone, or go somewhere else, and you don't really have to put handcuffs on it, capture it. You're not being sent to somebody else's emergency like a typical 911 call. The incidents that may require some large amount of ammunition, in most cases, are complete anomalies in the citizen sector. Again, if you're hitting.
Right.
So most people walking around have a couple threats to worry about outside of their home. One is going to be robbery. The other is assault. And then women get the added threat of sexual assault. All of those crimes require the criminal to be in contact with you or near contact. So they're coming in close to you to complete their crime. Most of those encounters do not require a lot of rounds or a lot of dissuasion to simply make the criminal do something else. Their goal in robbing you is to get paid. And if it's obviously they're not getting paid, they are usually trying to find someplace else to escape to. This is where, shot placement becomes a real issue. And most human beings react like deer-sized animals when being shot. If you hit them really good, it tends to be a fight ender. I did not see a lot of people who were hit in the aortic arch, basically a heart shot anywhere around it, typical heart-lung shot, that did real well of being much of a fight afterwards, and certainly never saw anybody shot in the face and the head who did not immediately drop. Now, it didn't always kill them, but it immediately stopped the fight in every case I looked at. Yeah.
All right, let's do this because let me do this because I'm going to run out of time. Start off with this. Who was Pat Rogers, and then we will segue to the event. Okay.
Sure. Pat was a former Vietnam veteran Marine. Went to work afterwards New York Police Department, one of the most decorated cops to ever work at NYPD, and then went to work sort of in the private sector after that, doing various training things for military and government agencies. Legendary instructor at Gunsite, legendary writer and trainer. So that's who Pat was. Again, one of my greatest mentors, friends, and an exceptional trainer.
Okay, and now what is the Pat Rogers Memorial Revolver event?
So my partner, Wayne Dobbs, and I, with our business, Hardwired Tactical Shooting, started the Revolver Roundup, I want to say it was about 9 years ago or so. And it was a event where we would bring in multiple instructors to teach Revolver at our facility in Dallas, Texas. Pat was a very accomplished Revolver gunfighter while at New York PD. And most people didn't realize what a level of authority Pat was on the Revolver. Pat and I talked a lot. He wanted to come teach at the event and was going to make a surprise appearance as an instructor in 2016. Sadly, Pat died in May of that year. So in honor of Pat, we renamed the event the Pat Rogers Memorial Revolver Roundup. It got to the point we would sell that event out so fast that it wasn't a solid, thing to continue in Dallas. Ken Campbell, the CEO of Gunsite, came out, attended the event as a student, loved it, and we moved it to Gunsite so we could accommodate a lot more students. It was a great memorial to Pat, because Pat is really a legendary Gunsite instructor and has been a fabulous success since we moved it to Gunsite.
And this is going to take place in November. This is open to everyone. And the question I have is, how much experience with a revolver does somebody need in order to sign up for this?
They don't need much. We have a lot of students with almost no revolver experience. Many of them have, for example, good experience with semi-automatic pistols, but can't find good instructions on the revolvers. And they are a bit of an art to run them efficiently. And it's becoming a bit of a lost art, which is why we kind of try to archive that at making Gunsite and this event sort of the place to go to really get a good immersion into revolver shooting. So we have a lot of people who show up with very little or no revolver experience, but they want to get that training from true subject matter experts on running the guns for real.
Okay, the Pat Rogers Memorial Revolver Roundup is November 18 to 20 at Gunsite. You can sign up over at gunsite.com, and it's available just like all the other Gunsite classes there. It's the same, but it's going to be different. And the other part of it is, from everything I hear, it's also just a huge amount of fun.
Yeah, it's a unique way to do Gunsite, and it's not very disciplined and controlled, which is one of the hallmarks of Gunsite. Is it's a very controlled environment where this really allows the students to dip their toe in the Gunsite pool and be able to move from class to class of whatever they want out of the event. I will tell you, there is a lot of socialization that goes on. We've got great vendors. We do a great barbecue that's hosted by the vendors who are out there, and it is simply a wonderfully good time.
It just sounds terrific. And Darryl, I apologize, I've got a break here. We're at our point here. Darryl Bolke, thank you so much for spending time with us. We're going to get you on again because we got a lot of other things to talk about, and you may be seeing me out there in November. I would love to do this. If you want to take a look at the pocket holsters that Darryl has created, check it out at thewilderness.com. Also, you can get some of the best belts and other things there, thewilderness.com.